All right, good morning. I hope everyone can hear me loud and clear. Usually that is the first thing we do when we're dealing with technology. I hope everyone can hear me. And when I say good morning, I'm hoping you're responding with enthusiasm. Good morning back. So I'll assume you've said good morning back. Thank you so much.
Good morning, Trevor.
Thank you, Director. Good morning to you too. So this is a customer service week. Our theme is sustaining customer inclusion. The biggest question that everybody asks is how? And one of the other questions that maybe some of you are asking is who is Trevor Ombija, an honorary warden in this case, and I appreciate you being here today. Without any further ado, I would like to welcome the Director General for Kenya Wildlife Service. He hates it when you say Kenya Wildlife Services. So I will say Kenya Wildlife Service. Retired John Waweru to make opening remarks. Asante sana.
Thank you very much, Trevor. Good morning, everybody. Is it afternoon? It's still morning, I believe.
Good morning, sir.
Do we have, I believe, the other participants as well who are with us? Yeah, yes, okay.
The 109 so far. 102 actually.
Okay. Thank you very much. Customer Week, of course, which is what we're celebrating, or celebrating this week, is it happens annually. It happens on the first week of October, and this year, when customer-oriented organization institutions around the world recognize the importance of the customer service and customer excellence to their institutions. That is the reason why it's done. And this year's theme, Sustaining Customer Inclusion, remains at the forefront of every organization, irrespective of its size. Kenya Wildlife Service has always placed its customers at the heart of every process, business thought, activity, or initiative. So we are very happy at Kenya Wildlife Service in how we engage with our customers. In an increasingly competitive environment, I wish to see Kenya Wildlife Service being the first place of choice for customers who want to experience landscapes and wildlife. We all must commit to build on this theme to have customer service inclusion as business as usual. It should not be something that we should be thinking about to happen. It's something that should happen as business as usual in order to achieve our objective of enhancing service excellence as per our strategic plan 2019-2024. And this is the reason why I'd like to welcome each and every one of you on this meeting, on this forum, so that we can listen to an expert who is a business strategist, an author, and an inspirational speaker who will be able to talk to us and unpack insights on service excellence. And this is none other than Dr. Wale Akinyemi, who will be talking to us today. So, as we say in Kenya, Daktari, welcome.
Much, sir. Thank you, sir. It's a privilege to be here. Thank you for having me here. It's really exciting. I have been a proud customer since 1994.
That is good.
A very, very happy customer at that. And so, in fact, I think I'm more than a customer. I think I have become an ambassador, but we'll talk as part of what I'm going to tell. I'll start with a day I was in a particular hotel, and this hotel smell. And so I asked them, I said, while and a lot, I actually threatened to leave. Then they gave me another room. And the room they gave me was fabulous. It was an amazing room. And I wondered, you mean this was here and you gave me the other crappy room you gave me? You know? And you see, it made me realize that if care is not taken, mediocrity becomes a standard. And that's what I saw in that place. That means it's not top of mind to offer the best at the beginning. That's a problem. If we only offer the best after something has gone wrong. So today I want to establish the difference between the customer and the ambassador. And, you know, when we talk of the customer, I will tell you, number one, there's a difference between yesterday's customer and today's customer. And you do realize that an institution like this, you are competing globally. All right? So who is the competition here? The competition is the equivalent body in South Africa, the equivalent body in Egypt, the equivalent body in Tanzania. You see? So we cannot afford to have a myopic look at how we operate. We must have a global look at how we operate. That's the first thing. Then the difference between those customers, I tell you, the customer of yesterday, and incidentally, many of us were the customers of yesterday, and we just happen to be the customers of today. And the customer of yesterday was a very patient person. You know, we would go to the bank to cash a check and you spend 2 hours in the bank. We were very patient people. You know, the customer of yesterday was somebody who was not too informed, because I remember the only source of where I was growing up in Nigeria, you had the 6 o'clock news. The TV station started at 6 o'clock with the national anthem and closed at midnight with the national anthem. The only news we had was the news that happened yesterday. So today's news when I was growing up was actually yesterday's news. All right? We were not very informed, okay? The customer of yesterday was very forgiving. If things didn't go right, it's all right. We understand how things work. But when you look at the customer of today, it's a different ballgame. The customer of today is so impatient. We want everything to happen now. Even God has a problem with the customer of today, because the customer of today prays to God and says, oh God, please give me patience immediately. You know, that's the customer of today. We are very impatient. The customer of today, apart from being very impatient, the customer of today is very exposed. And their exposure, they don't even have to leave their homes. They just need to watch National Geographic. They're very exposed. The customer of today is very unforgiving. So if things don't go their way, before you know what's happening, you are trending on social media. That's how unforgiving they are. There's a gentleman in Canada, I think his name is David Carroll or so. He was boarding a United Airlines flight and they broke his guitar. Do you know, he tried for 9 months to get them to refund the money, $3,000, refund the money for the guitar. And they did not. What did he do? Classic customer of today. He went to the studio, recorded a song. The song was titled United Breaks Guitars. The song became a hit. And not only that, it cost United Airlines a lot of value because somebody was unforgiving. So we need to pay attention to that the dynamics of human behavior have changed over the years. And as such, the way we relate with people has to be different. Okay? Now, another thing we need to understand is many times when we are talking customer service, we are saying, oh, smile at the customer, be polite, be this, and which is fantastic. But I want to show you something, the difference between customer service and customer experience. Now, imagine you, let me use the example of when I came in here today. At the gate, those guys were so polite. Can you imagine guys with guns being polite? You know, you know, they were so nice. You know, then from there, I got to the reception. I was treated so nice. They asked who I was. So it's not as if they were being nice because they knew me. I introduced myself and they were so nice. I said, okay, do I sit here? They said, no, come. We'll take you to the DG's office. Then I get to the DG's office and then Asha behaves as if she has been expecting me all her life. She treats me like an Igwe, you know? I feel so good. Then Japheth comes and he comes to sit with me, shakes my hand, and we have conversation. Then guess what? The Director General comes and he stands and he says, let me come and greet you properly. And now, each one of those components that's customer service. It is the totality that makes up the experience. Now, if one of those components was not right, it would affect my perception of all the others. For instance, you want to board a flight or you're planning a trip. Your first thing is, okay, I'm going to buy my ticket online. If the online ticketing process is flawless, you are happy. If it has, you're not able to log in, it keeps bumping you out and all that, then you go somewhere else. Now, but if it is flawless, you're happy. Then what's the next stage? Is the day you're going to travel, you do your checking in. Now, if the person at the check-in counter is as good and as flawless as the buying of the ticket, then you're happy. But guess what? If at the check-in counter, the person there treats you badly, then it nullifies the good experience you had when you were buying your ticket. Now, assuming the check-in is flawless, then you move to the next level when you board the flight and the flight purser, the attendant welcomes you on the plane. Now, if that flight attendant is flawless throughout, you've had a great flight. But imagine if that flight attendant has a bad attitude, then what happens? That means you will always remember as the flight with an attendant that had a bad attitude, because experiences are always remembered at the lowest level. Always. Okay? Everybody else in the chain might have treated you nicely. You will remember the bad one. So, but let's assume, hypothetically, everything is going well. Buy my ticket is super. Checking in is super. The flight attendant is flawless. Then the pilot. Now, and this is another thing. Remember the pilot, you don't see the pilot. So this is not a customer-facing role. But the non-customer facing role has a bearing on the overall customer experience. So imagine you are in that flight and that guy now begins to fly like these Air Force jets flying and he's doing funny things in the air. It does not matter how good every other person was. That flight will be defined by the way the pilot flew the plane. Let's assume the pilot did an extraordinary job that by the time you even landed, you didn't know you had landed. It was so smooth. Then there's still one more person. The guy handling your luggage. If that guy destroys your luggage or has messed up with your luggage, it does not matter how good every other person was. That trip would be defined by that guy that messed up your luggage. So what am I saying? Customer service is a small part of the total customer experience. The ticketing operating flawlessly, that's service. The purser, the flight attendant, service. The pilot is service. But customer experience is the totality. It's you have an experience value chain, an ecosystem of the experience. So we need to begin to look at this institution within the context of that flight, that it does not matter how nice the guy at the gate was. If the people at the reception did not operate at their A game, that's how this place will be defined. If the people in the office were not at the same A game, that's how the institution will be defined. So when we are talking, if we are going to build a sustainable customer experience, if we're going to build it, we must have an audit of all the different components that make up the experience. Because the last thing we want to have is everybody here in Nairobi operating at the A game. Then you get into Savo and somebody treats you like, what are you doing here? Well, you know, now it does not matter how great the experience here has been. People will always define by that encounter on the ground. So very importantly, every one of you, let me give you another illustration. It's like a bank. You know, the salesperson comes and offers you heaven on earth. You open an account because of that. Then what happens next? You try to take advantage of what the salesperson offered you. Then somebody you cannot see in a back office is the one that stops that process. So when you realize that, then what is the big thing we are taking out of this? We are all customer experience agents. Every single person is a customer experience agent. Now, what are the key factors we then need to have? Number one, we all need to establish a sense of dignity with our job. A sense of dignity. Let me take it from the holistic, from the macro and coming to the micro. When we look at the number of people that will give anything to trade places with you, then you realize that we are truly privileged, okay? So it's important you understand that it is a privilege to be here. When you understand that, that leads to the next big component of creating the experience at whatever level, and that is ownership. Ownership. First, the gratitude, the fact that we are privileged. Then that leads to ownership. Let me tell you how powerful ownership is. Because if you don't own it, why should anybody else own it? What am I saying? It's got to be more than a job. This is a calling. It's got to be more than a job. You are the backbone. You are the backbone of an economy of the greatest nation in East Africa. You are the backbone. All right? There are people that are fighting. Other nations want this space. But let me tell you something I have learned. If two people want to buy the same thing assuming you have this, my phone, and there are 2 or 3 shops in the same mall selling the same thing, what is going to determine who makes the sale? Remember, pricing is the same, location is the same, everything is the same, product is the same. What will determine who makes the sale is the person selling it. How do you make the customer feel? Now, good customer service will produce, or good services will produce customers, but good experiences will produce ambassadors. And that is what we want. We want ambassadors, not paid ambassadors. Because you see, the voice of an unpaid ambassador is more credible than the voice of a paid salesperson. So when I come and I say, oh, you guys need to come, you guys need to come. Why? I'm an unpaid ambassador. But I am an ambassador because I have experienced something. And so I have taken ownership. You see, you cannot expect the outsiders to take ownership if you, as an internal person, has not taken ownership. Because I tell you what, customer experience is contagious. So you need to ask yourselves, what is the experience I am giving you? So from the pilot, you know, what's the experience the pilot is giving the flight attendants? What's the experience the attendants is giving? I mean, there's a chain. And we need to ask ourselves that question, because it's terrible when somebody takes ownership but is being frustrated by somebody else. I give you a simple example. Maybe HR say, we want this, procurement, go procure this, finance is in the picture, and then you suddenly realize one team is not doing what they are supposed to do. That messes up the experience, and you know what? We only pass on the experiences we have had. So that's why it is so crucial. All of you must ask yourselves, am I giving you the right experience? And that's why that experience audit is important. What is the experience we are giving one another? Anytime, and then, you know, some of the things we found out, you know, the elements of key great experiences. You look in an organization, and when they say there is lack of trust, I'm just saying hypothetically, lack of trust. Anytime there is lack of trust, I immediately know there is a communication problem. Because when we get communication right, then we know what's going on and all that, and we can take ownership. Still talking of ownership, did anybody wonder? There was a $25 million reward for anybody who could give information leading to the capture of Osama bin Laden. $25 million is a lot of money. With $25 million, you can change yourself from a black person to a white person. You can change yourself from he to she. In this world we're living in today, $25 million. You know, somebody could have collected that money and disappeared and come and stay with me in the bush in Kilifi. Nobody will ever find him there, you know, but nobody spoke. Later on, when you watch documentaries and all that, you saw that they were not doing well financially. Why didn't anybody speak? Why didn't anybody speak? I know it's not the best of examples to use, but it drives the point home that people would rather remain poor and protect this guy than make $25 million. It's because they owned the cause. They owned it. They owned it. And that's important. When we own the process, and I know that my behavior will affect my neighbor's behavior, will affect the next person, and ultimately it will affect the way we relate with our customers, then that means, listen, that my number one priority is to give every internal person I work with, every internal person depending on my performance, I owe it to them to give them my A game, to give them a great experience. Because when I give them that experience and they pass it on, then collectively, you know what? We all pass it on to our customers. And when you have great service like that, in every unit operating at their A game, that is when we have developed the experience ecosystem to operate at top level. When we have done that, then we begin to have ambassadors instead of customers. Let me tell you the difference between an ambassador and a customer. The customer is fickle. The customer is there when things are good. A customer comes to Kenya, has a great experience. The experience we give that customer would determine if that customer is coming back. Let me tell you a story. I lived in the United States for a number of years. And so I came to Kenya, and there was a hotel I used to stay on the Kenyan coast. When I got to that hotel that morning, they told me it was full. I said, please, this was way before online check-in and all those things. So those days you landed and hoped there was room, you know. So I get to the hotel and they said, there's no room. I said, well, can I wait a bit? Maybe somebody will check out. And they were very, very hostile to me. And somebody said, why don't you try White Sands? Now, wait a minute. I did not know there was a place called White Sands. I had no clue. But you see, bad experiences become good advertising for your competition. And it is free. It's free. So they said, try White Sands. I said, okay. Got a cab, went to White Sands. When I got to White Sands, the concierge, Sammy, he's still there. I don't know. It was as if he had been expecting me. Oh, Karibu, Karibu. I mean, you know, I had to look back to think, see if there was somebody else behind me. You know, the guy was so good. Then he welcomed me, and I got to the reception. Next thing, I'm giving juice, I'm giving a face cloth, blah, blah, blah. You know, next thing, this beautiful girl comes and says, young lady says, where are you coming from? I hate filling forms. Before I know what's happening, she's filling my form for me. Huh. Then I'm taken into the room. And that evening, when I go for dinner, the waiters attending to my table were calling me by my name. Remember, I'm coming from a very useless place where they had no time for me. A Mumu hotel where they had no time for me. Now, I'm like, oh my goodness. They pampered me. Now, this one, I don't know if they were acting or if they were serious. But when it was time for me to go, I felt very sad I was leaving. They also looked sad that I was leaving. So I didn't know, you know, so I got back to America. The next time I was coming to Kenya, do you think I remembered that other hotel? No, I went straight to White Sands. And then guess what? They remembered me. So I was not a statistic. Woo! I was not a statistic. That one of our tourists from last year. I was 100% human. I felt so good. Now, you see what I'm doing now? talking to companies, leaders, and all that, decision makers. I've done this for nearly 3 decades, for about 3 decades, actually, because I started doing this when I got married. And I celebrated, my wife and I celebrated 30 years of marriage 2 weeks ago, you know? So I've been doing this for 3 decades. So I've been interacting with leaders. So I went back to America. Everywhere I spoke, every day I was talking about my hotel in Africa, Mombasa. That Christmas, I showed up with 30 business leaders. And the rest is history. The late managing director, J.S. Vora, we became brothers because they didn't know me. People come there, how did you find this place? Wale, where did you go? Oh, Wale, you know? And that was the turning point. Anybody who wanted me, United Nations, anybody who wanted me to work, they knew it's in Mombasa. It's a White Sands. So I had become an ambassador, but let me tell you, all up to that point, it could still be a customer. Let me tell you where the strength of an ambassador comes in. I was working in Addis Ababa for a global company, 250 CEOs of a global company. And I talked about my White Sands experience. And after the CEO of the company got up and said, oh, you know what, I understand Wale's enthusiasm, but it's not a big deal. I've been there. There's nothing much to it. This guy destroyed my brand in front of his people just like that. But you don't mess around when you have an ambassador. So I stood up and I laughed and I said, well, and I described the rooms in greater detail than he had. I said, I know the exact rooms you're talking about, and I described it in more detail than he had described it. Then I said, listen, this is the key, because I've taken ownership. The ambassador knows what's going on in his brand. I said, and that is why we have embarked on an $18 million renovation. And I turned to the CEO and I said, and when we are ready, I am offering you a complimentary for you and your family. Everybody clapped. I had won them back. The ambassador had stepped in a moment of crisis. Customers are great for when things are great, but ambassadors are great for when things are not good. Of course, I got outside immediately after I called Vora and I said, hey, bro, we're in trouble. I said, but this is what I have done. Guess what? He agreed, he approved, and that CEO now became an ambassador. What am I saying? Where we need to be, we need to create ambassadors. You are the first ambassadors internally. I'm an ambassador of my department. I'm an ambassador of finance, ambassador of procurement, ambassador of marketing, ambassador. When you are all ambassadors, then you pass it on. And people like Wale take the baton from you, and we now become ambassadors. So guess what that does? We make sure, because of the experience we're offering people, people are coming into Kenya. It's no more about, oh, I just want to see animals. It's like, oh, the way they treat me in that place. Kenya, we now begin to market this country as your #1 hospitality and whatever experience. It becomes what we are selling, the experience. That everywhere they go, they are knocking on doors. The experience they are getting is phenomenal. But like I said, it starts internally. And my parting shot is this. I don't know if we're going to have Q&A or I don't know. But my parting shot is this. No matter, remember what I said, no matter how good everybody is, experiences are always defined at the lowest level. And you don't want to be that person that is causing, that lowest level of definition. You don't want to be that person. So each one of you, everyone, it is because you are already ambassadors that we can be ambassadors. That I can go anywhere in the world and with pride tell people to come and experience my country. Listen to my language. I tell people to come and experience my parks. They are mine. I've taken ownership. I go out. I was invited to Nigeria some time ago, and I was speaking, and the former president was there and the current vice president. I was supposed to speak about something else. I spent the whole day talking about Kenya, to the point where my vice president asked me, how did we lose you to Kenya? Experience. Is somebody hearing me? Experience. So, listen, competition can be silenced by superior experiences. Let us swim deep. I need to tell you one more story, depending on how much time I have. Okay, so I can tell you another story. Okay, listen. In that case, I'll tell you 2 more stories. You know, I love the DG had to put on his camera. And this Nigerian boy is a very useless boy. So listen to this story. I like swimming. I enjoy swimming. And so back in the day, I'll take a boat, swim out, in Mombasa, swim out, then get out of the boat and, take a boat out into the deep and then begin to swim. Now, when I'm swimming in that place, it is so silent. It's just the sound of the water lapping against my body. And I asked the question, where are the noisemakers? They are all at the beach. They can't swim. That's where they are, at the beach. No. So I discovered something. The language of the beach is competition. The language of the deep is collaboration. The language of the beach is competition. The language of the deep is collaboration. So that means if I meet any other swimmer far out there, it's going to be a deep swimmer like myself. The conversation is different from the conversation the people at the beach are having. The people at the beach are fighting for space. The people in the deep are saying, you know what? Can we coordinate something? We have more rhinos here than you guys don't have rhinos. Can we put together a package that binds us together? You have elephants, we have rhinos. Can we put something together? Collaboration. That's the language of the deep. All right? And I think that's very, 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 very important as we begin to do that. So, as we create superior experiences. Now, when I'm swimming out there, if I'm hearing the conversations in the beach, it means I haven't gone out far enough. It means I'm too close to the beach. So as we are swimming out there, we begin to hear the conversations. Let's swim deeper. How are we going to swim deeper? Let's create the ultimate wildlife experience. Let's create the ultimate. And so we are no more selling products and services. We are selling experiences. And it starts from within. My final story, talking of experiences. And you see, there are 3 levels in experience, customer experience. The first level is the expected. Nobody is going to go and begin to write songs and articles about you because you gave them what they expected. When you go to a restaurant, you want to buy food, you want to have a good meal. You have a good meal, you don't die in the process. Nobody is going to make a big deal out of the expected. Then there's what I call the impressive. Impressive is when I do the expected with a great attitude. Similarly, it's not a big deal. So you smile, big deal. You smile for your own good, But there's a level, the unexpectedly impressive. The unexpectedly impressive, that is where superior experiences are birthed. I remember seeing something, I think it was in Nakuru or so, where a policeman helped a woman change her tire, the tire of her car. I don't know if anybody remembers that. A policeman helped. Now, that was unexpectedly impressive. And that's what we now need to go for. My story, I used to go to England quite a bit, and I'll fly British Airways. And on this particular time, I wanted to travel. British Airways was full. So I had to go back in the day, years ago, Virgin Atlantic. So I called Virgin Atlantic. Now, it started from the person that picked the phone. Remember, I said the experience is an ecosystem, there's a value chain. So this lady picked the phone. Her name is Caroline. Oh, she spoke as if she had been expecting my call. I'd never flown Virgin Atlantic before. The next thing, she made me feel really bad that I have missed half of my life because I'd never flown Virgin Atlantic before. And then she told me, she said, you know what I'm going to do? You buy economy, I'm going to put you on first class. Oh my God. You have no idea when you put a Niger boy in that place. Mama mia. First thing that happened, this lady comes, you know, after we've reached cruising altitude, she comes and says, would you like a massage? Hey, I said, my what? Massage where? At 35,000 feet? Hey, he said, would you like? I said, of course I would like, I'm ready. So I am having a head and shoulder massage at 35,000 feet. All right? My goodness. Then after that, I go back to my seat. I sit down. Then I have my dinner. Then she comes over and she says, oh, when you're ready to sleep, let me know so I can tuck you in. She gives me my pajamas, says, I can tuck you. And I said, tuck you in? She said, yeah, you know, Virgin Atlantic was one of the first to have flat beds in first class. Say, when you are ready, I said, I'm ready. So that is how I got up, went to change the pajamas. They put my bed. My goodness, I slept. By the time I was landing in London, I was a new being. You know, I used to say, Trevor, that, you know, it doesn't matter whether you're in the front or the back, you get there at the same time. My friend, you get there different. It matters. Dude, I got there. So when I'm coming back, same thing, my friend. After that, do you think I looked British Airways? No, no, no. Even if I had to go to Nigeria, you know, there's a direct Kenya Airways flight from Nairobi to Nigeria, to Lagos. Man, I'll fly Virgin Atlantic. We'll go Nairobi, London, massage. London, Lagos, massage. Then Lagos, London. Then London, back to Nairobi. Then as God will have it, I had a contract in the UK for about 2 years. So every month I was going to London like twice a month. Virgin Atlantic. On my birthday, they had a party for me saying I was one of their best customers in Kenya. What am I saying? They had won an ambassador. Why? Because it was unexpectedly impressive. And every single person was operating at their A game. So as we move from this week, don't let it be this week alone. Let it become cultural. Everybody operating at their A game, and let's begin to recruit ambassadors. I volunteer ambassador number 1. Thank you very much indeed.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Wale. Now what we're going to do is we'll allow a few questions. We have about 20 minutes to see one of the things is going to talk about. But before, as you get your questions ready, there's a chat box there. You can also speak up. If you raise your hand, we'll allow you to ask a question over the next 20 minutes. But even then, there was an internal video that was done by the Director General. I wish to play it now so that we can listen to it as we collect your questions, and then allow the DG to close. This I will do if my technology skills allows me. And if it fails me, the current customer is very impatient, just like Dr. Wale has said. And congratulations for 30 years in marriage. Nowadays, 6 months maximum and we're out. So that is quite an achievement. We go in ready to leave anytime. If you guys can hear this, I'll play this now so that you see, but I haven't shared my screen yet. Let's see if that works. Like I mentioned, my technology skills are one thing. Okay, let's share the screen. And hopefully my screen is clear without anything that I will have to explain afterwards to the Director General, and see if we can get this to play. And I'm sure Nyonyi is also wondering what's happening on the other side.
In recognition and honor of the work and service that Kenya Wildlife Service undertakes in shaping a future for wildlife conservation, I would like to thank our dedicated staff as they drive the cause of conservation to greater heights and endeavor to put our customers first, both physically and through our 24-hour call center. I urge all Kenya Wildlife staff to focus on strengthening customer relations in order to achieve efficient service delivery, as well as improving the overall customer experience. Asanteni sana.
Thank you very much. Now we'll see if there are any questions or if there's any hand that has been raised. But there's also one other issue that Dr. Wale has been sent through to us, so you can address that as we wait for any other questions. If there are none, it means the message is home, and we'll pass it over to the Director General.
All right. Thank you very much. This question is community. How do we engage in case of human-wildlife conflict? I think we will address it on how do we engage before any conflict. I think it's very, very important that you don't just show up as firefighters, that when something has gone wrong, then we show up because we've been called. You need to establish that relationship with the community. We need to engage. We need to have such a solid relationship with the community. Make the community ambassadors before the problem ever shows up. That way, when things happen, they have they have a feeling of responsibility also. There are two words in the English language that I want to point out. One is the word respond, and the other is the word react. Now, if somebody is not feeling well, and we say so-and-so is sick, and then we say he's responding to medication, we're very happy. But if we say so-and-so is sick and is reacting to medication, then there's a problem. So breaking down responding and reacting again, let's look at this. Somebody wants to join the fire brigade. He has trained all his life. It's been his dream all his life. Finally, he gets selected and he joins the fire brigade. He's done intense training. From his first day in office, he's looking forward to a fire because that's what he's been trained for. He wants to practice what I've been trained for. That's why such services are called rapid response, not rapid react. It's because before the challenge, they had created the right environment. And I think as far as the human-wildlife conflict, let me tell you something I heard once. I was part of this. There was a particular elephant attack somewhere. And the governor, who was a friend of mine, said, we need to issue a press release and all that. And it was up in arms. You know why it was up in arms? He said, when our people, and I think human lives were lost. So guys were now going for the animals. And he said, when our people are killed, nobody talks. When the animals are killed, the whole international community now has a voice. When you look at it from that point, it's logical. So what am I saying? I'm speaking from a position of ignorance here because because I was put in place, but I believe it is very important that communities become ambassadors. They see themselves as part of the process, and the way they are going to see themselves as part of the process is we need to establish a very human connection with them when there is no trouble, so that when trouble arises, their confidence is unshaken that these guys are on our side. Okay?
All right. Thank you very much. If there are no questions, I see that maybe there are two more. Let's see what's going on. Oh, wow. All right. Sialo Aitoyo says, Dr. Wale, kindly rate our customer service as an organization. Will you be our ambassador?
I think I already volunteered, but maybe you need to, okay, let's do this. Maybe y'all need to just send me to every park in the country. Maybe you need to send me to every park in the country and say, Wale, go enjoy and give us a report, an evaluation. Aha! But honestly, like I said, I've been on this journey since 1994 and I've not had any reason to complain. Now, I don't know if it is, and it feels real. It feels real. Human beings, we're able to know when somebody is smiling and it's fake, it feels real. So that I want to congratulate you for.
All right. There's another statement here from an anonymous attendee. He or she says, I feel all staff at all levels need to be sensitized and educated more on our products and services. We all need to understand what services are offered, our park and accommodation rates. This can be done maybe through weekly mails to all the staff. This is what you're saying earlier on, where experience is gotten at the lowest level.
Absolutely.
So unless you understand your product, how then do you sell it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. I don't see any other questions here or comments. I believe I'll now toss it over back to the Director General to close this if there are no more questions or comments. Thank you so much, DG.
No, I don't even know where to start. Dr. Wale, that was amazing. That was truly amazing.
Thank you for the opportunity.
It's really, it really is talking about things that maybe I didn't have the gift that you have of experience to be able to deliver to the Kenya Wildlife Service staff and, of course, the management. And listening to you, I wish I could juxtapose myself to you, then be able to come out with those same words so that then they can begin to hear, me in the way I'm sure they must have listened to you. And I believe that's the reason why the questions are very few, because it was a beautifully engaging session. I am very happy because some of those things that you're talking about, we have tried over time, maybe not be able to deliver them in the same way, but I feel now that all of us having listened to you, the message, I think, is cut across to everybody on what role they need to play, okay, by becoming ambassadors and getting ambassadors out there who then can actually do the selling of Kenya Wildlife Service. Like you said, visit our parks. You're not saying visit Kenyan parks, ours, that you own them at that point. And I'm really, really happy that this is really the message I wanted to cut across the entire Kenya Wildlife Service, that customer is key, but there are things that we need to do if that customer is going to stay on board, or if that customer, because for us, let me just say and share with you, it's the repeat customer that we want to have more rather than the one-time customer. The repeat customer is the one that is the person that we value completely at Kenya Wildlife Service. So an amazing talk. I could have listened to you for another 2 hours. I would have done no problem because it was very engaging. And I'm hoping management and staff, wherever you are, please I hope you are taking notes, because this is really, really powerful. If we were to go down that road the way Dr. Wale has just told us, the face of Kenya Wildlife Service will change phenomenally. And it will change in a way where people want to be part of you, rather than saying, those guys there. You know, it's about those guys and us. Now, they will be saying it's about us, because they're part of us. And I think that's a very, very key thing in what you said today. So thank you very much. We truly, truly appreciate you. And we look forward in engaging you, not just once. I feel already the need maybe of having you back again on a similar topic, and maybe having more of this kind of engagements with you, because I think the problem we have most of the time is that, yes, we hear it now, excited about it now, but we have what Trevor and myself like to say, selective amnesia. We forget in a very short time, and that story ends there, you know. But with a constant reminder, it would be very good for us to be able to remember that the customer is key, but it's how we engage that customer. It's how we bring the customer on board that is going to make the difference that we are looking for, of having a repeat customer rather than a one-time customer who's probably disappointed, doesn't want to come back, couldn't be interested, and walks away and doesn't come back. So thank you very much, and we truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
On that note, if there's nothing else, I'd like to bring the meeting to a close and invite you for lunch, which I'm joining you for shortly. And the rest of the staff and management, thank you for coming on board. And I hope you're going to carry away these lessons with you. Thank you, and God bless all of you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. You may leave at your own pleasure. Go ye and create ambassadors. Bye for now.
Absolutely.